Good morning. Welcome to Concrete Plant Park. I'm here at the Foodway. My name's Nathan Hunter, and I'm with the Bronx River Alliance and New York City Parks. I'm really excited today to be out at the park, just feeling very grateful to be alive and with good company. I have a good friend coming, Journey, one of our members of Concrete Friends, who unfortunately is delayed a bit by train. But I'm gonna get started and give folks a little bit of an intro to the park before we talk about what things are ready for harvesting here in the park and how to forage things properly. And when I think about foraging things properly, I think about two things. I think specifically about our health and safety as humans as we're doing this work. How do we forage safely? But also, how do we make sure that these plants continuously keep giving? So how do we harvest in a way that protects the plant and doesn't damage the plant further? So today's conversation is really about foraging, how to harvest things properly without damaging the plant and protecting yourself. But first, I just wanted to kind of acknowledge where I am. I am currently beside the Bronx River at Concrete Plant Park. This is a small pocket park near Westchester Ave in the South Bronx. Here at the park, we are home to New York City's only edible space that sits within a park. So right here, what I'm focusing on is the Foodway. And so this whole entire section is full of edible perennials that make up what we call a permaculture food forest. And this is a space, as I said, that is perennial, so it keeps giving as it keeps growing. And the idea is that abundance will continue, or we will see more yields in the future as these trees, what I'm looking at right now, a pear tree, and that's a chestnut back there. Once these guys get bigger, the chestnut up to 100 feet, our pear trees, can get up to like 30 to 50 feet. Maybe not 50, more like 30. But we're excited to kind of talk about what's growing here today and to be harvesting. So that's Westchester Avenue. If you're ever trying to get here, the 6 train runs above it. So you can see the 6 train over there. But before doing so, before I guess Journey gets here, I should say, I really just want to kind of give you a glimpse at what my toolkit is when I come into the park and do some foraging. So what tools do I bring that I use when I'm foraging and picking? So let me see if I can just quickly kind of position the camera, and then I'll show you what's up. So here we are. As we look down, we can see an assortment of tools. These are kind of my go-tos when I come to the park. You can see that there's a set of pruners, which is really great for cutting woodier branches and things like that. Maybe something like that St. Johns Wort right there. You'll also notice that I brought scissors. Scissors are really fantastic. These are just really basic office scissors. Scissors are really great for clipping leaves, for clipping flower heads. They're super accessible for most people, so you don't need to go out to the store and buy pruners. Often scissors will do the same job. You'll see that there's a couple different bag options. We got plastic bags. We also have a waxed paper bag. I'll talk about the difference there in a second. We've got a shovel, a small hand spade, and then this is a file for sharpening your tools, things like scissors and pruners specifically. It's a flat edge. And then you'll see have a spray bottle, and this is really good for cleaning off your foraged items if you're trying to taste something. We are positioned next to highways, so we are very aware that we do get air pollution, and you can see it if you wash your foraged goods at home. You'll notice that there's a residue or there's some dirt that's left behind. So it's really important, and I advocate this, do not eat directly unless you're really just eating for yourself. Don't share not clean food, but instead clean it before eating it. That is the best way to really stay safe. That's what I advocate. So talking about these tools, looking back at these tools for a second, you'll see I also have some alcohol wipes. Alcohol wipes are really good to use for your tools. You can see that mine are dirty, but the reason we use alcohol wipes to wash off our blades is to make sure that if there is any fungus or bacteria that's living on the blades, that you are killing it before moving on to the next plant, so you're not cross-contaminating or causing any disease to spread here at the Foodway. So that's really those tools. Regarding the bags, I mentioned that I've got a wax paper bag here, and then I've also got a plastic bag. when you're foraging, there's a couple things I like to keep in mind. I think the first thing is, what am I foraging? Today we'll be talking about all parts of the plant, everything from the fruit, the leaves, the roots. We'll be talking about seeds a bit today. So bags that breathe typically are best for keeping seeds and dry materials because it breathes. Both these bags kind of hold a little bit of moisture. They're okay. They're really okay for like putting your plants in. I think ideally, if you put a wet cloth around your leafy things, they will extend a bit longer. But today, Journey and I were talking about a lot of the crops that we're gonna harvest, we're gonna bring home, and we're going to dry on our shelves. So for us, it's not so essential that we're preserving them and trying to keep this life within them, but instead we're actually going to be dehydrating them and drying them out. So this is what my toolkit looks like. I think it's important to kind of think about before coming out to a space to forage, bring the appropriate tools because you can easily damage the plants. So I just first want to kind of take a second to position my camera. And I'm going to just wash off my blades real fast because if I'm teaching something, I want to practice it as well. So I'm going to take my my blade and I'm just going to wipe it. And with COVID, it doesn't hurt that your hands are actually getting cleaned in this process. But this wipes off any of the dirt and it sterilizes it. So we're doing that. Very lucky to have these pruners from the Alliance. Okay, and I wanted to show you the blade. So you can see that there's a flat edge here. So if you're trying to sharpen your blade, ultimately what you're trying to do is scrape off any of those fragmented metal parts, which doesn't make it smooth. So you're going to go with the groove. You're not gonna be pulling back and forth with this file, but instead you're just gonna go one way. And it's the same practice if you're in your kitchen sharpening your knife. It's the same thing. If you don't have one of these fancy files, which are very cheap from Home Depot, I got this for like $2, you can use a sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rocks are rocks that have, over time, usually found by rivers, where the sediment lays on the ground, and over time it gets compacted and creates a rock by creating those layers. It tends to be a softer rock and tends to be full of sand. So the sand is actually what helps get rid of any fragments. So you can see I'm just kind of like rubbing on the edge. And you don't have to do much, like that's really it. These are pretty good, they're really new. So that's that. I'm just gonna lock it. There's a locking position, which is really all about safety. I'm gonna open up my other safety, or my other alcohol prep pad, do my scissors. I do this at home a lot because I have houseplants and I'm always concerned about transplanting or transferring back, bad bacteria or fungus from plant to plant, or diseases really. So I'm just gonna clean those off. So there we go. I'm gonna put this trash in my pocket. I got my toolkit. Let me grab my bag. We're gonna put things away. And then I think I'm gonna show you some of the plants that are growing right here, and maybe we'll do a little demo while Journey walks over from Freeman. So let me just stash all of these goodies in here. Cool. So I think one of the things I don't have with me, but I really want to advocate, is consider bringing Tupperware. I think one of the things that I typically do, but did not do this morning, unfortunately, was bring a Tupperware container. We get a lot of takeout. You might even be able to be resourceful and ask your neighbor for one or something, but use a hard container because it will protect the leaves if you throw it in your backpack and bike home, or it'll just keep everything intact so it's not getting snapped and damaged. And that's really when your product or your harvest really starts to degrade, is when you start chopping it up, right? That's how you get all the essence out, and that's when we start making our teas and such. So I just wanted to say that. Okay, so I'm gonna flip over the camera and show you some of these things that are growing. I'm gonna focus here on Mugwort because it's one of our most popular plants here in the park. Mugwort I'm actually going to have Journey fill us in a bit when she gets here more, because she's got a plethora of ways to use this plant. But Mugwort's really great for various reasons. You can make a tea that helps you sleep at night. Related to mint, it's really good for digestion. This plant also has numerous other properties. There's some techniques of using the smoke from it to literally take away like bad energy, I guess, from the skin, and disease or infection from the skin. And I think also among this not poison ivy, but mosquitoes, Mosquitoes, the smoke simply deters the mosquitoes. So we've tried that here in the park. So I encourage you to kind of think about trying these things at home. So if we're foraging mugwort out here, and let's say we forgot our scissors, right? So if we forgot our scissors and maybe we just want the young tips. So mugwort is always really flavorful. The younger it is, it tends to be tender. It's really better fresh then. So you'd grab maybe this top part where my thumb is, right? As it gets older, it becomes more bitter, becomes harder. So let's say I forgot my scissors, right? So I might take my thumb and forefinger, use my nail, and you saw that how I pinched it, and that's what the edge looks like. So it's not bad. It doesn't hurt the plant. So if this is a plant that we're trying to keep, unfortunately, we're not going to try to keep this mugwort. But if it is a plant, like an herb we're trying to keep, that's a really good way to protect it. So this is mugwort. Now scissors, pretty self-explanatory, but you want to cut the plant right above the node. So what I just did is right before the next leaf, that's considered the node, where there's the next branch coming out, right where this finger is that's wiggling. So you want to cut it right above. And that's the best way to harvest things. Let me see if I can get a good shot. So we'll see some other examples. But when you're harvesting this, you can immediately put it right in your bag. If you have that wet paper towel, you can wrap it in the wet paper towel, which will help preserve it a bit longer. If you don't have that, it's okay. You can just tuck it in your bag. When you get home, throw all your foraged items into a bowl of cool water, not cold, not really hot, cool water, and everything will kind of bounce back to life. It'll absorb that water and rebound. So that's a really good tip, I think, when you go home immediately, especially on a warmer day. Right now it's noon. You would ideally like to do this in the morning around like 8 or 9 before the sun gets too high, when dew is still out, so there's still some moisture on the plant. But yeah, this is not the highest point of the sun. About 1 or 2 is probably worse than right now, but earlier is always better. So I'm seeing Journey. Journey's coming down. I'm thinking we'll just wait for her to join in, because there's a couple other plants here I would like to point out. We've got some St. Johns Wort here. You can make a tincture from it. Typically you would harvest the flowers, which aren't out quite yet. The buds are starting to form. But tinctures are always great. You can harvest the leaf simply by pulling off the individual leaf, or you can snip a branch. In this case, since it's woody, you'd want to use pruners. So perhaps with Journey's assistance, we can kind of talk about the technicalities of the different tools. Hey, Journey.
Hi.
How's it going? So good to see you. Thanks for taking time and coming out to go foraging with me. Yes, that's awesome. So great. Let me recap for you what I've been up to. I've been chatting with folks about the different tools you can use, thinking about kind of what's essential when you're out at the foodway. So we obviously talked about bags. I kind of talked about the different bags, porous bags, like letting air through versus like plastic bags, which might keep air in. What else we got in this bag? I mentioned a shovel because we're going to try to dig up some dandelions today, maybe some roots, and we're going to talk about when to harvest roots outside of the springtime, because typically we don't want to harvest roots during the growing season. I talked about cleaning. This is an alcohol wipe, cleaning your tools before going on to new plants. So we cleaned off our tools before I did a little demo. So we brought some scissors, We brought some pruners, and we cleaned these off, and we also sharpened them with a file. So
Okay, that's the file.
Exactly. So we see the file inside. So folks got a little chance to see what's up. Any other tools you would have brought that's missing, or what did you bring?
No, I didn't bring any tools because I didn't this.
Awesome. We're working as a team, and I got the tools. She brought the basket. So, and is that sweet potato?
Oh, yeah. I did bring some sweet potato slips.
Oh my gosh. So slips are the roots of sweet potatoes or the vines?
So when the slips come from the sweet potato, the tuber itself, if you put in a little bit of water, this is what you get. And this is what you plant to actually get some sweet potatoes.
Hey, amazing. And sweet potatoes run pretty close to the surface. So that's actually really exciting if you have, it's a great ground cover, we were saying.
Yeah, and it's edible. The leaves are edible.
Yeah. You heard that. So the leaves are edible. And I remember them having a lot of micronutrients.
Yes, they have a lot of micronutrients. They have a lot of antioxidant in them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So just like most of the greens that we eat, but with the sweet potato, it's just a little bit more micronutrient in them than the rest of the greens.
Yeah, and it's drought tolerant, or it's really hardy,
yes.
Which I appreciate. Versus it's non-relative, the normal Idaho potato or whatever, that's not related to this plant.
Yep.
Grows differently, loves water, but so excited to have sweet potatoes this year.
You can't go wrong with sweet potatoes.
Also, I didn't even mention, but we have a spray bottle over there. I brought a spray bottle because I talked about how we're positioned next to the highways, and obviously there's going to be air pollution, and so that might drop on our leaves. So before we consume anything in the park, we definitely at least want to spray it, but ideally bring it home and give it a good wash.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
Wash it, give it a good rinse when you come home. Now with the berries, if you're not going to use them right away, then don't rinse them off.
You heard that.
If you do, it'll spoil a lot quicker. So when you're ready to eat them, then you rinse them off.
So for those, I know folks are having a little hard time hearing. We're wearing a mask trying to be safe over here. She just mentioned the berries. So if you're harvesting berries, it's important.
Especially raspberries. Like, don't wash them right away if you're not going to use them right away. Just put them with a towel,
Yeah.
However you guys normally store your fruit. Store it that way until you're actually ready to eat them. Then wash them and then eat them.
Right.
If you don't do that, it's going to spoil very quickly.
Raspberries are delicate, as we all know. Don't try to wash them right away and squish them in a bag. It just, it won't work out that well. So with berries in particular, store them and then wash them when you're ready.
Yes.
Wash them when you're ready. So I just did a little bit of a tutorial on what to do if you're harvesting, let's say, mugwort. I did a little hand demonstration to show if I forgot my scissors, what do I do? And I used my forefinger and my thumb to kind of pinch off the plant. I talked about how typically you would only take a little piece because you want to save some for others. What else any other thoughts about kind of harvesting? That's just one example of leafy plants. We're going to bounce around a bit, but...
The other one with the mugwort, what you did was actually, it was fine. I mean, there's nothing much to add to that.
Awesome. And we harvested right before the node. So if we're looking at here, just this is a really nice clear picture. The node is where that leaf is coming out. It's the next point of growth. So the node would be like, see with those little leaves? Those are all going to be little nodes. So if we actually take off those leaves, sometimes they'll grow roots right there. Mm-hmm. So once again, a little demonstration. I'm going to use my forefinger, use my nail a bit. Oop. And I just picked it off, but look how clean of a cut that is.
Yeah.
And then check out that plant. See, I didn't damage the plant. There's still a significant portion for others, so I can bring that home, maybe make a tincture with this.
Yes, this is St. Johns Wort. So with St. Johns Wort, you can make a tincture, an oil. The oil turns red.
Ooh.
Nice red, but that's with the flower. But with the leaves as well, you put it in vinegar if you want to make, like a vinegar type of solution, or even if you use alcohol, it's all going to be red. So.
There you go. So to make a tincture, you can throw this in a jar with some alcohol, just whatever you got in the cabinet, typically vodka, a really cheap grade, or you can actually use vinegar, which I didn't.
You could use vinegar, but vinegar is slightly different than with the vodka than alcohol because it takes out things, but not everything. So if you don't want to use alcohol, you can definitely use vinegar.
There we go.
It just won't last as long and won't be as, it won't have everything. Extracts everything.
Alcohol extracts everything versus vinegar, which only extracts some. So it's not as strong of a astringent. Someone just asked, can you come to the park and harvest stuff? Yes, that's the whole point of this park. We are hoping to have signage at some point, but we have a handy little QR code positioned right here, which will help you to some degree identify plants that are here in the park. You can populate it on your smartphone if you're physically here. You can also go to the bronxriver.org /foodway website where you can see a complete plant list and you can add plant ID from there. So yes, we encourage people to come out. That is why we are creating these videos, is because we want to teach people how to harvest things sustainably. We don't want you to come in and just dig up things and leave giant holes, because not only is that just creating more work for us as the main guardians of the space, but also you're leaving spaces for air to dry out other plants, which leads to just a catalyst of other problems. So we're here today to kind of troubleshoot any questions you have, talk about how to harvest things appropriately, and really strategize on what to eat here. So Journey, what else are we near? Let's see.
Okay.
Oh.
We have bergamot.
Bergamot.
We have bergamot right here, which
Awesome.
is also known as Earl Grey.
Earl Grey. It's used in Earl Grey tea.
Earl Grey tea, right? This is Earl Grey. This is your bergamot.
Yes. So this is bergamot. It's an Earl Grey tea. It's also known as Monarda.
Yeah, Monarda.
Monarda fissulosa. And a quick pollinator moment. This is one of our best pollinators in the park. It's about to bloom. Have gorgeous flowers. But Monarda fissulosa is one of our best natives. New York City parks plants them all over. We ask school teachers to be doing that. But this is a great plant for eating as well.
Yes. Now, one thing that just to talk about harvesting, right now it's getting ready to flower, right? You wouldn't want to harvest this part right now because the plant needs to fulfill its full cycle. It goes from, when it's first coming up, from the seedling to flowering, and you want it to go to flowering stage. Like we say, it's a great pollinator. So that's a plant. If you come and you see this part, you won't take off from the top because you don't want to lose this part right here. So we just have to be mindful of those things. So getting to know the plant is different growth stage. If you see like, oh, okay, it's getting ready to flower, let me just wait. Sometimes it's better to just wait because after it flowers, once it flowers, then we okay. But for right now, you want to just let it bloom.
Yes. So just to repeat, because people are having trouble hearing, once again, we're in front of bergamot. It is about to flower, so we're not going to harvest from the top. We don't want to pick using your forefinger like I was doing before right here. I guess perhaps you could probably take a couple leaves, maybe one or two from each plant.
Leaves from each plant. Look for the nice.
Yep. Like maybe like this leaf looks really healthy, I'm seeing.
Yes.
And do you want to demonstrate kind of how you might pick just using your forefinger?
So the way I will do it, I like to do it for the So right here, I have nails, so I'm going to use my nails and then just pinch right here.
There we go.
And that's it.
There's one tea leaf.
Yeah, one tea leaf. And as you can see, there's a lot of bergamot.
Lots of bergamot.
So you can definitely harvest what you need if you just take a little bit off of each. If I was to strip this whole thing right here, it wouldn't be good for this one plant.
Right.
But
Right.
remember, we do want it to bloom.
Right. And the leaves are, once again, solar panels that take in energy, convert the energy from the sun into sugars, which feed the plant, which is what allows the bloom to keep on blooming, right? And what's exciting too, and a lot of these summer big bloomers, we can harvest the flowers and we'll get another batch. So deadheading is a whole nother process to keeping the blooms coming. But this is a great one to harvest. We haven't used our tool yet. Journey, you want to use some pruners and just show people how you might use this set of pruners? Or scissors. It is. Oh. There we go. So,
I'll use the scissors.
you want to?
I don't want to.
Totally fine. Yeah. So, if you focus on your comfort level, if you don't want to use, fancy pruners, don't use fancy pruners. Use scissors. we've got both, right? Someone just asked, Rafaela, is this plant wild? This is a native, so you can find bergamot.
You can find it in the wild.
Yeah.
It's native it's native to North America, so you'll definitely be able to find it in the wild. And if you're looking for it, you have to pay attention to the leaves, right? But when you touch it, it's a little hairy, so it feels soft to the top, and then there's ridges all over.
Also, the stem is square.
Yes.
And we know that square stems are good for mint, or are relatives of mint.
Yes. So when you guys come in, I mean, we really want you guys to smell the plant, because when you're smelling it,
Yes.
if you have your bottle spraying a little bit, and then even just take a bite so you know what it tastes like. So when you're in the wild, because you also want to make sure that you don't take any plant that you can't fully identify or comfortable identifying yet.
Yes.
Then you'll go through the step. Does it smell like it?
Yes.
You know, does it have the square stem? Does it have all, the leaves? Do they look compatible? Before you go ahead and you taste it, what you do just make it just a tiny bit, because you don't know how you're going to react to it, or even if you identify the proper plant. So you have to be
Yes.
really careful about that.
She just named one of the most important rules, and I didn't even mention it. So identify the plant first, right? Before we're eating anything, identify the plant. And there's bunches of apps out there. I really suggest downloading iNaturalist, which is a free app. It crowdsources all the data. So as you take a picture of the plant, and it gets crowdsourced and people answer what the plant is, it's highly accurate. A lot of the data points are already based here at Concrete Plant Park, so we already have, verification that this is that this is bergamot. So there's a lot of safety in coming here. Obviously, this is the only space in New York City where you can be harvesting food, with one exception, Stuyvesant Cove Park. But outside of that, the only park where you can be foraging stuff. So come here, play, identify stuff. So, okay, without further pause, she's gonna show us how to use some scissors.
Right here, right? You're talking about for the leaf, correct?
Yep.
So it's the same thing. You want to make sure you're close to right here, and then just
Snip.
snip.
So scissors are so easy, right? So
Like for me, scissors come in handy when you're harvesting off of a plant that have like a lot of kind of like
sweet fern.
sweet fern.
This is sweet fern.
Yes.
So you can just harvest the individual leaves, you're saying?
No.
Or specifically?
Because it's like you're not. Let me just.
Yeah, show me what you're thinking. We're thinking about the benefits of using tools versus using your hands, because I know some people, like, I'm definitely lazy and I don't always have my tools, and I sometimes will just use my hands.
Yeah. So if you look at the way the leaves, just how everything is orchestrated, there's a lot of individual. Now you can go ahead and go like this individually, but with this plant you can cut up from right here.
Yes.
And because it's a little bit hard, going with your fingers, you may not necessarily give it a nice clean
Yes.
cut. So having a scissor will make a big difference, because it will avoid harming the plant.
There we go. You heard how that almost clipped, because it is a woody plant.
Yes.
So this is a small shrub. This is sweet fern. Sweet fern's a bit astringent, so it's really good for stripping oils off your skin, including poison ivy.
Yep, and stomach ache.
Stomach ache. It has a lemony taste.
Yeah.
Citrusy, which is great for warding off mosquitoes, like I said. It also is, I love this plant because it's a survival plant. You can always find dry leaves somewhere by the plant. Usually the plant will have some lingering. I see that bush behind has some leaves hanging on. I actually think that might not be living. That's so funny. But in general, there are typically leaves, and they're highly combustible because of the amount of essential oils in the leaves. So I always think when camping, if you don't have any dry leaves to start a fire, look for sweet fern. It's a native. It grows in the New York woods, and you can start your little campfire.
Another thing too, if you're into smudging, things like that, sweet fern has been used by the native, during ceremony as a smudge stick. So they dry it up and then burn it to clean the air, all of that good stuff. So,
Yeah.
and it has a really nice not scent. It may not taste the way it smells, but it smells really good.
It does. It does. Awesome. Let's move on to another plant. Super. What are we thinking? Mountain mint anise hyssop. I know. So we're walking towards the anise hyssop. This is another plant you can harvest. Once again, it's like a soft plant. You can usually use your fingers, but scissors are really great for this.
You can see also there's a square stem.
Square stem.
So it's part of the mint family. It tastes really great in tea, and then especially if you make some iced tea. Like, I like hot tea, but iced tea, you can consume it a little bit more throughout the day, actually. So it's really good, especially if you have a cold. And you want to have something pleasant that you kind of sit back and actually enjoy. You know, anise hyssop is one of them.
So anise hyssop again. Beautiful.
This one spreads out very fast.
Yes. Do you want me to take that spray bottle? Or something? Okay. Cool. So we're also, as we pass by, this is bayberry. And you can harvest these leaves, although I remember the flavor is better when it's dried.
Yeah.
So you could harvest this probably like the sweet fern with scissors.
Yes, with scissors, because as you can see, that right here again is I can go like this,
But it's too hard.
Well, but if I use scissors.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So if you use scissors to harvest this, bayberry is like bay leaf, the stuff you use with your vegetables, your
Now,
soups.
another thing too, you want to be careful. Just know that if you pick, right, and you're having a hard time getting rid of, getting the plant off. If you just leave the leaf like that, this whole part is gonna die off.
It will.
So just go ahead and use some scissors and harvest from it. Or if you really can't do it with your